Network's discussion on COVID-19, lessons learned and plans for the future. We're really glad to see so many of you be able to join us today for what promises to be a very engaging dialogue. I'm Remus Jason. I'm the Executive Director of PSS. We're a multi-service nonprofit in New York City that offers a wide array of programs and services. One of them is Coming of Age. And you'll be hearing a little bit more from Pam Ramsden, who oversees Coming of Age program. But the mission of Coming of Age is to inspire people 50 and older to live with passion and purpose. So we've designed this session to be as engaging as possible. We want to make it interactive. Our hope is to hear from all of you. So we're going to do that in two ways. One of them, I'm going to start by calling on a few Encore Network members to share some of their own key takeaways from this pandemic. And then we'll open it up to everyone via some small group breakout sessions. And then after those breakout sessions, we'll reconvene everybody. And you'll be automatically put into randomly placed into a breakout group. You'll have about 15, 20 minutes to discuss as a group. And then everybody will be automatically brought back at the end of that time. So we're hoping to hear from everybody, but do keep in mind, there's about 26 people on this call. Try to keep your comments brief, succinct, focused, and when not speaking, please keep your microphones muted. Feel free to use the chat to ask questions or make comments. And Sarah Geber, who's also on the program committee, she's going to help monitor those. And as a reminder, this session is being recorded. So let's begin. And I'd like to start by recognizing and inviting our new Encore Network's director, Paula Hart, to say a few words. And to introduce Paula, I'd like to have Network Chair Janine Vandenberg introduce Paula for all of us. Janine?
You bet, Remus. So welcome everyone. So excited that we are doing this today, kind of our first program since transitioning away from Encore.org. So thank you, Remus and the programming committee. I am especially thrilled to introduce to you Paula Hart, our new executive director. Paula comes to us with amazing nonprofit leadership experience, including experience with diversity, equity, inclusion efforts, which I know are important to everyone here, and also with kind of a personal history of multi-generational inspiration. And so with that, Paula, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Janine and Remus, and good morning or afternoon to everyone. I am thrilled to be here today and thrilled to be joining the Encore Network. Just a thumbnail sketch of my background. I did start working at 12, but my first real career was in retail and marketing for about the first 2 decades. And then I did an Encore-like pivot into health and human services and spent another about 17 years in senior leadership roles in a variety of community-based nonprofits. Most recently, I retired as the president and CEO of Volunteers of America, Minnesota and Wisconsin, which had a large, as you might expect, volunteer workforce of about 1,400 people and about 800 employees. I took the last year as a self-appointed sabbatical or gap year to really think about what my Act 3 was going to be. And as Janine said, really the Encore idea is in my DNA. My grandmother had very purposeful volunteering into her 90s. I mentioned to some of you, she used to guard the art at the local library, and in her 80s visited the old folks in the nursing home, et cetera, et cetera. My dad retired from his part-time role in his field at 86, and at 91, he does still, from day to day say he regrets that he quit it all. So it's really baked into who I am, and I am thrilled to be here, roll up my sleeves, and help all of you succeed.
Thank you, Paula. We're all looking forward to working with you, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So fantastic, and we're going to start the conversation now. But to do that, I'd like to ask one question via poll to get everybody's initial gut reaction to the question. My polling is inactive. Interesting. Okay. Well, so much for that poll. I had a poll question ready, but what I'll do is instead I'll just ask it, and maybe by a show of hands, people can indicate their response.
Are you referring to the setting aside the disruption and devastating illness one?
Yes, that I can't post it. Can you?
Yeah, I can. I have the option to launch it.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin.
All right.
That's why I have a backup support with people with better technical skills than I. So, Kevin, if you want to post that question, and everybody it'll be anonymous. Just put your gut reaction into the your answer, your initial first response. So, Kevin, I don't know if you could launch it.
Yep, it's launched. We're getting responses. We got.
Great. I don't see them, so you'll have to reply, or you'll have to let us know once you've gotten about 26 or so responses. Everybody answered?
There's 2 left.
Well, let's just go without them.
All right.
And is there a way you could show us the results, Kevin?
Yeah. Let me see. And poll. All right, and share results. Is Remus, do you see the results?
I do not. Does anybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I don't see them. So go ahead and keep it a secret from me. But no, I'm just kidding. I see. So who wants to comment on the results? Doug, I see you. Do you want to say anything about the results?
Yeah, the results say 70% believe that their organization has managed to thrive, and 30% had a basically negative experience.
Okay, interesting. So I was wondering how that would come out in terms of the participants today. I think it's reassuring to know that the majority have had a positive experience as a result. So to really drill down into that a little bit deeper, I want to call on a few people. I'm going to be calling on 4 Encore Network members: Tim Lieberger from Encore NEO, Pam Ramsden from Coming of Age, Paul Weiss from Oasis, and Ann Greenwood, who's representing the Encore Boston Network. So Tim, let's start with you. Your biggest takeaway from this experience?
Yeah, thanks. Tim Lieberger, I'm the founder of Encore NEO, located in Northeast Ohio here. And our organization is focused on helping people over the age of 50 create new careers. So it really is focused on helping people generate new revenue streams. And we know the impact of ageism, which has certainly been aggravated by the current circumstances. And let me say right off that the poll question around setting aside the disruption and devastating illness and death from this pandemic, everything I say, there are many positives to what's going on, but we can't remove ourselves from that context. Just out of curiosity, I did a quick search, and in World War II, over 4 years of World War II, there was something in the neighborhood of 260-some thousand combat deaths over a 4-year period. And right now, over the period of this pandemic, we've seen more than 240,000 deaths from the COVID-19 virus. So it really is a tragic time that we're in. That said, I have always been motivated by disruption. I'm a person who likes to think a lot about future possibilities. One of my personal slogans is no inspiration left untested. So I like to try new things. And this kind of disruption has, by its nature, thrown us into a period where we have to face the disruption. We have to come up with new approaches and ideas. One of the tools that we use is the business model generation canvas to help people create their own personal business models, and we help organizations do that as well. But the primary part that's been disrupted is the channel, how we connect our products with our consumers. And I can only thank God that Zoom has shown up when it has, because if you can imagine what this would be like if we were stuck with telephones and email. So it really is fortuitous in the sense that we now have at our fingertips something that creates a new kind of relationship. And so as far as major lessons on this, one of the things that surprised me a couple months into this, we shifted all of our programming online, and we currently do 3 programs a week, almost 2 hours each. And we were meeting on site before. People come together, the coffee, the tables, the treats, and all that sort of stuff. And I asked the question, I said, when we go back on site, how many times a week do you want to meet? And there was some silence. And the answer I got was, well, maybe once a month. And so what we're seeing, and I work for another organization, WW actually has a lot of focus on studios. They've moved to Zoom. Same thing is emerged for them. There's developing a very high preference for connecting through Zoom. And I don't want to minimize the fact that there's certain things that happen when you're face to face that don't happen online. But what I found in a lot of the facilitation, one of the upsides is I can see all your faces at the same time. When I'm working with a group, I can't. So when I see Paula smiling, nod her head there, I say, Paula, what's on your mind? You know, so it's a very new, different, easy way to interact with people that at least our consumers are expressing a high preference for. So that's one major lesson. And one of the other cool things about being online is, you know, I can leave this meeting anytime I want. If I get bored with it, I can say, end meeting, I'm out, and nobody really questions. I can extend a courtesy to explain why I'm leaving, but I have much more flexibility in the way I interact online. So that technology has given me that. Some of the best practices we put in place, we do weekly updates. We've done those for a long time now. But one of the things I do is put out a standard Zoom link for all our programs. First, I was cautious about this. You'd hear about Zoom bombers and all that kind of stuff. I was afraid of people sneaking into our meetings. But one of the things I learned was, well, if they sneak into our meeting, we don't want them there, we can kick them out. You know? But otherwise, if we put the link out there, people can join in from anywhere in the world simply by locating us on our website, saying that looks interesting to me, and I'm going to join in. Dave, who's on our board of directors, links in from Arizona, Prescott, Arizona. Most of us are in Cleveland. We have another fella who used to participate from Boston. So it's given us a greater reach in that. Now, the permanent transformations that have happened for us, one, I had to get to a place where I realized that Encore NEO, which stands for Northeast Ohio, may not be relevant anymore. Okay, the whole world is open. Now we have to think in different ways about that. The other thing, the permanent transformation is my own view of technology in this sense, okay? I realize, and in the people we work with around creating careers, we actually put a series in called Mastering Virtual Working. Because this technology gives, if we can master this for ourselves, all of a sudden the whole aspect of aging minimizes in the employment equation. As long as I can develop what I would call an extraordinary skill within specific domains of interest to me, and I develop excellence in those, excellence that sets me apart, this is for me as an individual or for us as an organization, I can find a market out there that I can connect with. And for us, that's good news. And for those who are in this career transition after the age of 50. So I see a lot of possibilities around it. Challenges, yes. Talk about that all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, do I really want to learn this new technology? No, probably not. But does it give me an advantage in the domain that I have decided that I want to influence in this world? Yes. All right, I'll find the motivation to persist. So that's my quick overview, and I'm going to hush up now and pass on to somebody else.
Great, thanks, Tim. And now I know you can leave anytime you want. Hopefully you'll stay for the whole discussion. So I'm going to move over now to Pam. Pam, I know you've had some good experiences with Zoom and pivoting. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, sure. I'm manager of Coming of Age, which is a program under PSS. And our main thrust has been to offer in-person events and newsletters with inspiring stories about positive aging. PSS started to introduce this concept of online presentations and Zoom. And I thought, oh no. What I'm trying to do is to get the older adults out of their homes and get them into community and get them to engage with each other and do live programs. And I resisted that until the pandemic came, and we were seamlessly able to move right into Zoom meetings, and it has been truly a great bonus for us. Whereas I might have had 15, 25 people in a live event, I mean, I can have 80 to 100 in events now. So I think that being able to move into this new platform, we're reaching a lot more people. We've been able to engage authors, and we had Jerry Sedler on a panel with a life coach, and normally they might not be as available to us. And because we were doing most of our programs New York City based, we can now do it in a national base, and it doesn't matter where the speaker is. So we can get better speakers, and that's been a real boon for us. The other advantage is, yes, we've lost the in-person contact, but we're setting up more Zoom meetings as opposed to webinars, and we get people able to talk. We just concluded one this morning with 45 people on financing long-term care, and it was lively and wonderful, and the panel was terrific. So I don't think we would have been able to do that as easily if we were still doing the in-person things. We're even going to look at doing more fun things. Coming up in December, we're going to have an event where it's to improve brain plasticity by word games and puzzles and anagrams. We're doing that as a Zoom meeting, and people are connecting with each other, but we're also trying it out at 2 of our senior residences, where in one place they can meet in the large conference room or activity room, socially distanced, play the games with a big monitor. So we're trying some hybrid things that way, and that's been a real benefit for us. It's when we reach this national audience, it's also increasing our membership, because I tell everyone that we want to get them on our mailing list, and we have a national newsletter that goes out to, let's see, 4,400 people, and a local New York City newsletter that goes out to 1,500 people. So our reach is wider, and that's been terrific. And I think the surprise benefit, which speaks to what Tim said, helping, being able to see that people have this high preference for connecting on Zoom, is our men's group. We started that 2 years ago with 3 men, and we've increased that to around 22 right now. They used to meet once a month from 10 to 11:30 on Thursdays. And when the pandemic hit, we looked into, of course, doing the virtual meetings, and they were so engaged and so excited. They said, can we do it twice a month now? And one group is already spun off of that. And so they're meeting a couple times more than our own men's group. So that really increases that connectedness between retired men that they might not otherwise have, or we would not have been able to retain them if we stopped meeting altogether because we couldn't do it in person. So I think we've not only seen some wonderful lessons that have helped us to grow, but we've been pleasantly surprised.
Great, thank you, Pam.
Thank
I don't
you.
see, I don't know if Paul Weiss has been able to join us. Paul, if you are, and maybe you've called in, I wouldn't see that. Feel free to chime in, but if not, I'm gonna ask Ann Greenberg. Ann, would you like to share your experiences that, in Boston?
Yes, thank you. It's Ann Greenwood. Yeah, I think similar to what other people are saying is, I think a key takeaway for us and is really how connection through this terrible time we're going through, but connection is never more important to our members. So while on the one hand, it's harder to connect in terms you can't physically go and meet, we can clearly see it to them in them that it matters, that they show up at our virtual events. So it's, again, not that we wish this on anyone, but a positive outcome is that people are looking for the kind of connection that, that Encore Boston provides. I think another takeaway that we see is substantive issues are of great interest. It's not, taking a lighter touch, it's actually digging in deeper. In fact, and I know Doug Dixon's on too, who leads the Boston, our Boston chapter, that we did a series not knowing exactly where it would go on the Black Lives Matter issue. And that was really well received, multiple sessions. And I think reflecting, people looking for a group like ours to host conversations on that at this moment in time. So not only looking for connection, but also connecting on more substantive issues than we might have done before. That wouldn't be something we might have considered a year or so ago. And for technology, while for some it was an initial barrier, I think virtual works. And as prior speakers said, it's easier to connect. Surprising for some how Zoom, I'm looking at all your faces. It does provide a connection and no commute required, right? So that's been terrific. Virtual does work. It allows us to reach more people, as I'm sure for everyone here. And for some of our team members, it's certainly nice not to have to go to a center or a place, cut down commutes, that kind of thing, to get to meetings, that kind of thing. And for people who have mobility challenges, this has really been helpful, to feel like they're not missing something that they can join on equally at the table with the group. So that's, I think, certainly a positive that's come out of that. Just thinking about our best practices, one thing that we do with new members is coffee and conversations. So, every so often invite new members and some old members to meet, which would have been done, of course, back in the day in person over coffee. Now that's something that we do through Zoom, and that's worked out really well and engaging, and people really appreciate it these times. I think one learning that we had from that is that we have to be sure to manage that, because I don't know if people have had that experience, but with new members, you don't really know them quite yet. In one case, we had someone who went a little bit off the rails. And so the ability to control that is something that we'll be careful with going forward. So you live and learn. But by and large, greater engagement, and people really seem to relish these opportunities to connect virtually. So in terms of looking for the future, I think these virtual gatherings are definitely here to stay for Encore Boston. It sounds like there are for the prior speakers as well. I do think in person is still going to be important. So I think, not that we're going to go all virtual, but I think it'll be more of a blend that we might have been before, having gone through this challenging period. That's it. And I think, not so much for Encore Boston, but I think, working from home is going to be something we're all going to have in our lives much more prominently than we ever did before. So that's kind of the summary from Boston.
Thank you, Ann. I really appreciate it. And so now we're going to give everybody a chance to share their own experiences. And we're going to try to focus, we're going to do some breakout sessions. I'm going to ask Kevin to put up the slide of the questions you'll be asked to discuss. We'll create these breakout rooms. Everybody should have about 20 minutes to discuss any or all of 3 of these questions. And what I'll try to do is I'll copy and paste it and put it into the chat. But these are them. Any or all. What is the one most important lesson that your organization has learned? What was one of the biggest surprises or unexpected consequences for your organization as a result of COVID-19? And really, this is an important question. In what ways might the Encore Network, this network, your network, help you effectively move forward from this crisis, or at least move forward? You might be hearing about some things you'd like to learn more about, et cetera. So these are the 3 questions we're going to have in the breakout rooms. I'm going to set up 5 rooms so that there's 5 participants per room. And you'll be automatically sent to those rooms. And then when you rejoin, please have somebody identified from your group that's going to be able to summarize and report back very succinctly, 60 seconds or less, any key findings, recommendations that come from your discussion. Hope that makes sense to everybody. And I'm going to create the rooms. And now I'm going to open all the rooms. All right. This is the first time I've done this. So let's keep our fingers crossed. And are people getting put into a room?
Yes, everyone is going into rooms right now. I've already put questions 1 and 2 in. I'm typing up Q3 right now.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Kevin. So Craig is not in a room. Can we get Craig in a room? Oh, there he goes. Thank you, Kevin.
No problem.
So they cannot hear me, I'm sure, right?
No, only people. The only people that can hear us is who's actively in this. Each one is separate.
Yeah, this is good experience for me because I couldn't advance the slides the way I had it set up. And then 2, when it came to the poll, I saw a screen, it said I don't have access. So we'll have to figure that out and figure, how that should go. I have the screen in front of me for the groups. At the right time, I'll give them a minute notice. And then I think when I hit close all rooms, it gives them like 60 seconds before it closes.
Question: how many breakout rooms were you trying to create?
5.
You only created 1.
I created 5. I see group. I see them. I see breakout room 1, 2. I see who's assigned. Do you see them?
I'm back. Sorry. Yes, you're correct. Okay, there are. For some reason, it was just showing me. Oh, yeah, I got it. Because
you're probably seeing your room. Me and you, maybe.
I'm assigned to breakout room 1, but no, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
That's why. Okay.
So, do you think they're in there?
Well, yeah, no. There was people like when I went into breakout room 1, they were talking and everything, and then I saw that there was multiple other breakout rooms, and yeah, so yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some questions here, so I'm going to call on Sarah. It's hard to do these, even just seeing how the chat with the expert series are going. Seeing how people put a lot in the recording. Perfect. All righty. So I'd be curious, how did all of that go? Hopefully it was a great session in your particular room. I see Helen clapping. Thank you, Helen. So I'm going to call on each group to just report. I don't know off the top of my head if group 1 was labeled group 1, but so I'm just going to throw it open. Who wants to start? Who would like to report out first? Just speak up.
I'll start. This is Vivian. I think we were group 1. I'm not sure. There were 4 of us in the group. One of the things that surprised my organization was our resilience and how quickly we adapted to the virtual learning curve. Some of us are more involved than others. All of us, I think, are over 60. So I think it was real interesting to hear from each of the participants that we are really more alike than we are different. There was another member in the group who calls himself the connector, and he works with a variety of academic institutions and coordinating various ways that they can learn information. I don't want to minimize what he's doing, and I don't know how accurate I'm reporting it because I didn't take any notes. But I think it's really interesting that we can embrace the concept of interacting with younger people, and that's one of the things that I regret about the pandemic, is that I don't have the interaction with younger adults like I used to, just my kids. And they're both in their 50s. So, you know, it's not like it's young folks. We had another lady who is not a member of an organization, but is a life coach. And she is doing a workshop this afternoon on with other people, I think, that are in our age demographic regarding eliminating worry. And I think that's so important because one of the things that the pandemic has done is pushed a lot of fear buttons because we're all so vulnerable because of our age. And let's see, then there was Janine, who was our not facilitator, but kind of our leader, organizational person, and just talked about how happy she was that we were all there participating, and hope that we continued our commitment to the group and readily share ideas and interesting things that we are attempting to do or have been successful in doing. It really wasn't enough time, but it sure made us stay on point, so to speak. So that was a good thing. I passed.
Thanks, Vivian. Thanks for reporting for your group. And I see, as you mentioned, Marnie posted some information about that 5 life hacks to stop worrying. She put that in the chat. So thank you. Who else? Next group who would like to report?
I don't know for the next group, Remus, but I'll report for our group. We didn't even decide who was going to report, and I'm sort of stepping into that vacuum. But there are 3 things that came up in our conversation that I wanted to pass along because they're a little bit different than what's been discussed so far. One is a best practice that Julia Rindo-Khan mentioned, and we've used this as well, and I think it works very well. And that is asking people at the outset who don't know each other by and large to identify in the chat their names and where they're located. And I think this is particularly relevant because the reach is expanding and we bring in people that go beyond our immediate area. And this is a kind of an icebreaker, but also creates a context, right, for the connection and gives people a sense of who they're in the room with. She also mentioned some entrepreneurial activity that she's aware of that is taking advantage of this newfound comfort with technology and its ability to reach more and more people, coming up with new ways to create pathways to Encore opportunities by using AI and some other technology. So that'll be interesting to watch. And then we also talked about the impact of the economic downturn on people, in particular, people who either have lost their jobs or concerned about that or are looking for work and are having difficulty finding it. And it's true for us as well, as I'm sure it is for many of you. We're refocusing our programming to address that issue, and it's not going to go away soon.
Okay, well, thanks, Doug. Anybody else who's group 3 or?
Okay, I'm reporting for group 3. And we had a very good discussion, frankly. I'll start out, we sort of went question by question. So Noreen gave us her thoughts regarding question 1, an important lesson, and they had to work, and it was also a challenge, how to onboard new fellows into their program. That wasn't something they had to deal with. I mean, they had onboarding, but now with COVID, they had to approach onboarding in a very different manner, because the individuals, the fellows, I guess, were not going to be on site. Did I get that right, Noreen? But anyway, and Clint also talked about mentoring program that he was involved with or is involved with, and he found it to be very transformative, the way things ended up having to work under the COVID-19 environment. So that was I suppose, a surprise, a pleasant surprise, a positive surprise. Dorothy talked about the issue they had with volunteers, teaching assistants or volunteers in the schools, and for obvious reasons, that became a big issue for them, and still is, because with the schools shutting down or moving to virtual teaching, or combinations thereof, and that's still going on, if I understand this correctly. So they had to, that was a challenge for them. They had to adjust to that, again, new environment. And question 3, we did talk about ways that we felt that the Encore Network could assist going forward. What I got out of that was sharing and connecting with others, with other organizations, especially where they have the same issues that we're dealing with, and being able to share that and share potential solutions to those issues. What I heard was that COVID has forced all of our organizations to think outside the box, to think about new ways of doing things. And that can be positive, of course. If you're rolling along under one particular set of procedures, you're forced to think in a different manner. That can certainly end up with better processes and better ways to run the programs. Tim and Clint talked about Encore Network being able to help out by setting up affinity groups, or assisting in sponsoring affinity groups, again, for those organizations to talk about common interests. I think I've covered everything.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So how about the group that you might not know your number, but maybe the one that Paula Hart was part of? I don't think you reported yet. I don't know who's reporting for your group.
Yes, I was as the rookie dubbed to report, and some of the themes that maybe we haven't heard as much about before is how moving to virtual has really opened up the world to so many people that would have been reluctant to engage in the programs before. And the example that it was a 3-hour commitment before to come to programs in Boston, and now it's a 5-hour commitment to move into a Zoom environment. So the pluses of that, and how there's a lot more potential to use facilitation techniques than maybe we realized at the beginning. And while it will never replace in person, the plus of being able to tap into what's unique around virtual space. Disruption, and Craig really shared that this has been very disruptive for the nonprofits who they are serving, and has turned upside down the ways that nonprofits deliver their services. And so how his organization can stay relevant for those nonprofits is a challenge. He also quoted the woman who heads up the California Hospital Management Association as saying that a volunteer network system is like a nervous system without a brain. So very reactive. And how is the opportunity to become more proactive and more intentional around volunteer management and all the different challenges that that's showing right now? How the network can help folks, that today's webinar is a great first step, and that the richness of the relationships is so important amongst the network. So how we can keep those relationships thriving.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Paula. I think, is there one more group? I'm pretty sure there is.
Yes, I'll
Sarah's group.
report. I'll report out for our group as best I can, because we were far, far less organized than the other people who have reported. Our group was Mara Mayer, Helen Dennis, David Garvey, and Rosemary Nixon, and me. And we did a lot of sharing about our organizations and what was kind of working and what wasn't. And since Mara and I both kind of represent ourselves and don't really have organizations, we heard a lot from Rosemary and Helen, and David talked about his as well. And I think that since nobody wrote anything down, or at least if you did, please chime in and save me here. But the essence was that being online has opened up a lot of doors, and it opened doors to other geographies, opened doors to a lot of people who just didn't want to do something in person, and that it's been a real eye-opener, and the technology hasn't been difficult to master for most people. And it's really been a good thing. And I think that probably surprised a lot of people. I know it has certainly surprised me to watch all these organizations get online and kind of get moving with Zoom and other technologies. So does anybody else in my group want to add anything? Otherwise, that's it for us.
Yeah, I'd like to add that with regard to how the network can help help individual programs, just meeting Sarah and Helen, both of whom I see as potential speakers for online events that we'd like to host next year. I'm sure there are other talented people in the network who would be interested and willing to share substantive material that they're focused on. And maybe there could be develop a speakers bureau or something for Encore programs around the country.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Rosemary and Sarah and your group. And no, I think some of the recommendations so far have been excellent in terms of how the Encore Network can respond. Somebody mentioned affinity groups, and I know the program committee's already been looking at that. Rosemary mentioned the Speakers Bureau. And again, I mean, we're a network. You're all highly encouraged to get in touch with one another, particularly as you get connected, learn more about what each of your organizations is offering, seeing if people have particular expertise or topics that they want to share. That's, I think, the whole beauty of this network. So hopefully opportunities like this will facilitate that process. I'm going to check with Sarah. Sarah's on the program committee. She's been monitoring the chat. Sarah, I know people have been sharing. Is there anything in particular we want to address, or that we should, any questions that came up?
Well, there was one question that came up earlier and it's directed specifically to Anne. And that is, with the coffee conversation, do you identify a general topic to draw people in marketing wise? So Anne, that's for you.
Yes, right. I just
And-
would mute. Thank you for the question. So is there any particular topic? We were really viewing these as you get acquainted and them to feel
lost,
you know, obviously the original, a bad connection.
yeah.
Yeah. You can maybe pause your video. Go ahead.
So bandwidth issue.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you.
There you go.
The coffee conversation, basically it was an introductory, a way to connect and build rapport and engagement with our new members was the idea. So as I said before, they were on Zoom, through Zoom. And for better under.
Yeah, unfortunately, Anne, we can't. We're losing you. I don't know
No,
if.
It might be a bad connection on this end. I'm sorry. So
no problem. No problem. That happens. I always worry about that happening.
Can I ask a question? Will there be a sharing of contact information for the people who are on this call? I only found out about this yesterday from Bevan Rogel, and for some reason I'm not receiving notices of these calls.
Great question, Noreen. Do you want or Janine
I can
Paula?
respond to that. Rosemary, we had an incorrect email address for you, and I corrected that today. So you should be getting things going forward. Bevan flagged it for us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question for Remus. You may not recall, I contacted you 4 years ago about coming of age training programs, both for volunteer directors at agencies and for people who wanted to be volunteers. And at that time, there was a considerable charge for doing those because people would have to come to wherever you were, and we didn't have the capability of paying it at that time. I don't know that you're doing that any longer, and what's the possibility of working with those of us who are trying to encourage volunteer engagement?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question, and I won't belabor it now. Rosemary, you and I need to talk, but I think one of the advantages, that came out of this for us is the realization that we have an opportunity to deliver training in an entirely different way. And I think in tandem with that is people's realization they can get people trained, that you will have volunteers who could maybe get trained online via Zoom. And so it's a new reality a lot of our organizations now have in terms of delivering material. Pam from Coming of Age mentioned, before she never even envisioned doing virtual events. And when we did offer them, it was kind of an afterthought when we did anything online. I think now we know that an online option is as viable as in person. It's not the same. It's not as good maybe as meeting in person, but there are advantages to it and it can be done. So we'll be looking at delivering Explore Your Future online, doing training so we can, our goal is just get the programming out there. And I think a lot of people have expressed that today in terms of sharing good content, which is a perfect segue because I'm going to wrap this up. Kevin, do you mind showing the slide, the last slide regarding December event? I know the program committee is working on an event for December. It sounds very fascinating, like a very important topic. It's Encore response to the movement for racial justice. Lenora Inez Brown is going to be leading that discussion. I don't know if she's on the call or if Kathleen would like to say anything more, but I highly encourage everybody to participate. And I want to thank everybody for participating. It was a very interesting hour. I hope you got something out of it. There were some great suggestions. Hopefully you've made some great connections in the meantime. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is just the whole notion that we're going to have so many more ways of connecting with one another moving forward. So with that, I'm going to close the session. Thank you all. I want to thank those people who volunteered to speak in the beginning, but I also want to thank everybody for taking the time to participate in the discussions and to share with one another. So thanks. Have a great day. Stay healthy and well. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And hopefully we'll see you next month on December 8th for this encore response to the movement for racial justice. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.